your host, Lynn Whitbeck, and today I'm joined by our absolutely wonderful guest, Laura Armstrong. And we are going to be talking about how to build a world champion business. Now, if you get a ton of value out of this episode, I would love to invite you to subscribe because it costs nothing to subscribe. And let me tell you a little bit about Laura because you are going to be absolutely knocked off your rocker right here and now. Laura is a three-time world champion martial artist. That is so amazing because I know how hard that is to get to that point. She's a professional speaker, a best-selling author, and the creator of Wealth Mastery Systems. Laura's experience and expertise of 30 plus years blends hard earned skills, strategic methodologies, guiding her clients to unlock their full potential, resulting in mastering their wealth, elevating their revenue, developing a more positive and powerful relationship with money to live happier lives and make a real impact in business and the world. Laura inter, I should say integrates, let's get that out right, cutting edge technologies and techniques, holistic approaches, focusing on mindset, training, energy optimization, and strategic execution for high performance well being. Laura, wow, so impressive. And I am thrilled to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Every time someone reads that, I'm like, that is that me? That's me, right? And I was like, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here today. I love helping people really step into their power and know that they can do it and know their worth because I think that's so key. Yeah.
It is. It is absolutely. And, with everything that you've done, especially going from all the work that you've done with martial arts, and I'm sure that that discipline and that training also led you down this path. But I'd love to hear about how you got started in building that, this entire system for the wealth mastery system.
Yeah, for sure. It's I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years and it's always this path of what do I want to be when I grow up, right? Like we all go through it. And at the beginning I did a lot of holistic practice because when you compete at an international level, you also have to take care of the holistic side, which is your body, your mind, your emotions, like all of it to compete at a high level like that. And so I got involved in it for that reason, but it ended up being this whole other thing that I added to my life because I could see that I could heal people and myself, right? And so it's become an integral part of everything that I do. And one thing I noticed, because when I was younger, I didn't grow up with the best money mindset. My parents, though we lived in a well to do house, my parents didn't have a good, especially my mom, didn't have a good money mindset. And I worked in corporate for decades as a commodities trader, and I got packaged out. And, it was interesting because I made good money, but I was living paycheck to paycheck and I was watching my peers like buy houses, go on vacations, do all these things I wanted to do. And here I was stuck at home with a full fridge of food. That was my vacation, right? Like, so it was really like, what is going on here? What am I missing? Right. And I realized that I was taking on those limiting beliefs from my parents and stuff about their money mindset. And I wasn't clear about what I was aligned with. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those things today. But the point is, when I was 42, I'm 58 now. They packaged me out, not in a great way, and I decided to take them to court for a lot of money because I deserved it, and they didn't. And I just decided at that point in my life, I was retired. I'm only going to do things that make me happy, that help people, and make me boatloads of money. Right? I love money so much, and I take a lot of. There are a lot of different reactions to when I say that, and I'm sure like you hear me, right? Like it's like, oh, that's really greedy, or that's really selfish, or like that is awesome, right? So I get the full gamut and I'm willing to have it all because it just tells you people's relationship with money. Like if you think about it, we think about money a million times a day. We make snap decisions without even realizing it, and a lot of the time, unfortunately, it's not a positive emotion. So the goal is to change that and shift that. And that is why I created this. And really, it's when we get into it with my clients, it's more than that about money. Money's just the facilitator. And then all the other stuff comes to surface, and then we clear everything out that doesn't serve. So that's kind of like a high level overview of the whole thing.
Well, that sounds great. And I can see how, um, you know, the things that you grew up with and that you were around, but also that discipline from what you had
Yes.
gone through in your experience helped you really reformulate it into something fresh and new and really powerful. So I think that really leads us to that big question. I mean, how do you build a world champion business? Because that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So let me just qualify world champion. And so when I was coming up through the ranks, you would first compete at a regional level and then a national level, and then you would do, and you had to qualify every single time. And so then you would compete at an international level. And so it's a really interesting feeling to be the best in the world at something, because it's something that on a physical training level you can't maintain. You have the title, then you have to go back and win the title again. But it's different in business, because when you hit that pinnacle, there's always another pinnacle. It's not like you're the best and it's done, right? So there are, I've tried, trust me. Yeah. So there are a few things that are key to being the best at a high level. The first is asking yourself, what does high achieving mean to you? It could mean $3,000 to someone, it could mean $3 million to someone else. So if you had to put a monetary value on that, that would really put it in perspective for you. It's like asking what someone's high ticket offer is. Sometimes it's 500, sometimes it's 50,000, or everything in between. So the first thing I would say is to become the world champion of your business is to make sure that you know that your money mindset is healthy. And for that, there are a few things I do. The first one is affirmations, or declarations. Some people call them affirmations, declarations.
Yeah.
And don't just say affirmations, don't say stuff. Say things that resonate with you. And when you do it, look in the mirror, into your eyes, down into your soul, because that means it's resonating with you. And it's not woo woo, because if you do this, you will get results. And that's all I care about for all of you out there. Okay. So I do a really good one, and I'll give it to you on this podcast if that's okay, Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I'm so grateful today that abundance comes to me easily and effortlessly on a consistent and everyday basis. If you say this all the time, look yourself in the eye, your world will change. I promise you. I've had crazy stories come back about that one. I do a lot of affirmations. I do a money one. I do, there's different exercises that I give when I'm working with someone who wants to be the world champion of their business. So the affirmations are really key. Then I give them different exercises that are going to destroy all those things that are not serving them.
Yeah.
The second thing that I do is teaching them how important it is to live in their vision. So we go into the present now, we go into the future. And the future is their vision. So, what is in their vision? Where do they want to go? A lot of the time, we're just doing stuff or throwing spaghetti at the wall. Or maybe we have a business plan, but what's the actual ultimate goal of the business plan? And a lot of organizations, when you look at them, they have a mission and a vision. So it's the same thing for entrepreneurs, right? And so my vision is to create something in the world that will have an impact on people so that they can step into their power without working so hard. I don't know what that looks like yet, but it's going to happen, and I'm doing it every day, right? So whether I'm on this earth or not, that is going to continue. And so being in your vision, a good way to kind of baby step it back a little bit and just take a moment is to think about this. If you had an unlimited amount of money and all your bills were paid, you're already smiling, Larry. I know what I'm doing. I'll tell you what I'm doing. It's hilarious because it's so true. Is you have an unlimited amount of money, all your bills are paid, your investments are done, your kids are taken care of. Like there's none of that. And so this is disposable income. What are the three things that you are going to do in your vision? And it can be in your business, it can be in your personal life. It doesn't matter what it is. So for me, it was easy. First of all, I'm going to buy an island. I've just decided that's happening. And then I'm going to hire someone, that's my number two, to tell me where the island is because I'm going to forget. Okay. And number three is I'm going to make sure that I can, fill out my shopping cart before I break the internet. So those are like three things I would love. I do have other ones, but those are like I'm kind of joking, but I'm really not. But it's really important to make sure that your vision is clear, because did you see how excited when I talked about that? That's where we need people to be when they're in their business every single day. So if your vision is strong, the second part of that is that it aligns with you and what's important to you. And I'm sure everybody talks about this, but it's true. Because if you are not aligned with your business, you will not succeed. You're just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I would, you hear me, yeah. So do things that matter, because you cannot get that time back. Everyone has 24 hours. The third thing is limiting beliefs. Destroy them. I mean, things like, self sabotage, anxiety, all of that. I mean, it's like this terrible surprise party in your head, and you have no choice but to be there, right? And you can really dig yourself a hole if you don't stay out of that. So, destroying your limiting beliefs, and you can do that by doing a lot of reframing things. And so, I do this by getting people to ask my clients to ask three questions. The first question is this real, or is this true? And so, like, it's like fact checking your inner critic. And we all know that, fake news is out there. We all know what that's about, right? So, is it real for me, or did I pick it up? I know for mine, a lot of it I picked up from my mom and dad, right? And so it wasn't mine. The second would be, so is it true, or is it real? Is it mine? Okay. So if it's not yours, I mean, you don't need to pick up someone else's baggage at the airport. Keep your own, right? So it's if it's not yours, you don't need to keep it. And the third would be, is it serving me?
Yeah.
So if it's not serving you, don't keep it. But we're crazy sometimes as humans, because we're like, no, I'm telling my story self the story, I need it. So what is the story you're telling yourself, right? Is it a crazy story, or is it an insanity story, or is it like, I'm out of here because I don't need this anymore? So you can reframe those negative beliefs, right? Like, I'll give you a good example. My mom would be like, well, honey, money doesn't grow on trees. That was her voice, by the way. And like, after I started working on this stuff, I'm like, you know what, mom, I got a few acres out back if you want to take a hayride through that. Right. So it's just like how you reframe it is where your power comes. So you step in your power and you take it back from others. Those would be the three key things I would say. You do that, you become unstoppable. There's lots more. Those are the keys.
Yeah. No, I absolutely I'm a real believer in affirmations, and
Yeah.
I like to do it the very first thing when I get up and I say it out loud.
Beautiful.
Now I need to add say it in the mirror, but saying it out loud is so important because and also that first thing in the morning. And
Mhm.
one of the ones that I use for a reframe, which is I was telling you about it in the green room before we went on, but I have this thing of saying, there's so many things I get to do today. Because
Right.
there are times when all of us feel like, wow, I've got a lot on my plate. Well, I reframe that. There are so many things I get to do today because that means that I'm in control, I'm in power. And
Yes.
I will also take a look and at things that I want to show up for and I want to do, but I'll say, you know what? Today it's got to be redlined.
Yeah.
There are sometimes I can't, I do a lot of different things. I like to show up for people. I want to be there to support them and cheer them on, and participate and to get to just have that experience. But there are other times where, you know what? Not going to happen today. So, and that's okay. That's a choice. And I don't have any baggage or I just move on.
It's
Make the
so,
choice and move on.
yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because there's so much power in the no if it's used properly. And not only does it set those boundaries for you, and this is another thing, by the way, people, if you want to become a black belt in your business and you're looking to elevate and hang out with those 9, 10 figure earners, the power of the no becomes something that becomes a powerful tool for you. Is it serving you? Right? It doesn't mean that you're saying no to the other things people don't want. You're saying no to the things that are not serving you in so many ways, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and you're taking care of yourself. It's not a
Yeah.
selfish thing, right? And I 100% Lynn, 100%.
Yeah. And you can always, and it's, you can say no with grace and
Absolutely.
kindness and
Yes.
compassion. And sometimes it's just, it's better for everyone involved. So, and I think that for women, especially, learning the power to say no with grace, um, is incredibly powerful.
Yes.
So, well, we sort of went off a little bit here, but you talked about guiding people along this journey,
Mhm.
with all the different tools that you're using, the affirmations, the, or, reframing, this language that you used. But as you're, are there anything else that you'd like to include about how people, you guide them along the journey?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of it, I do a lot of clearings that are based in Chinese methodology as well, like alternative things that are a little bit woo woo, but the only thing I care about is that they give practical results. And I built so much trust with my clients that they're willing to do this. And then when they start to see the result, they're absolutely willing to do it. So there's that kind of thing. But then there's also a lot of people are in their head a lot of the time, so they logically have to figure out why it works or what I need to do. And so a lot of it is understanding how to communicate effectively with each different type of personality because they all have different values. And that's really been key to me, not just communicating, but helping people because it's important that they understand why you're telling them something so that they can get the maximum results. Otherwise, they're just doing stuff for you, and that it doesn't make sense, right? So the other thing I do are that if they're local to me, I will work on them like physically if they're here, so they'll get sessions with me. Also, I do a lot of work in the way of when I coach, I mostly ask questions. So, how can I lead them? Well, you're laughing because you know that, right? How can I lead them to the answer, but in a way that they're discovering it on their own? So, I do a lot of that. And under the other thing that I do a lot of, and a lot of coaches do this too, is I'm like, well, how does that feel for you? And someone who's not used to tapping into the feel becomes easy. So I'll reframe it. I'm like, well, what do you think of that? So now they can be in their head, but they're actually really in their heart. And so
Yeah.
understanding how to get them from here to here is a big part of the training that I do for people. And, the other piece of it is there's a lot of generational stuff that we don't realize till we start to take a look at thing. And I'll give you a good example if I've got a little bit of time, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I work with this gentleman. We'll call him Bob because I always call him Bob or John, and today's Bob. So Bob, nicest guy you'll ever meet. He was divorced. So kind, low self esteem, low confidence. He was not making any money at work. He was really struggling. His kids didn't respect him. And we started working together. And he's like, Laura, I got to do something. I'm like, it's okay, Bob, we'll figure it out. And we started talking and he started telling me his story. This is the other thing that I wanted to mention, Lynn, is most people don't feel heard or supported. And these are the two key things that if you do nothing else in your business, if you give people that, you have their heart. They heart or head, whatever they want to live in. If you give that to them, they will be so grateful because they're actually feeling heard. And we started talking, and so he said, actually, this happened when I was a little boy. He had an older sister and an older brother, and then it was him, and then the mother was pregnant, and they were at the hospital. She was having the baby. The baby was stillborn,
Oh,
and the mother looked at him and said, "This is all your fault. If you hadn't been born, I would have been able to have this baby." And she told him this every day, every year, for years and years and years.
wow.
Right?
Yeah. That's,
Does it
that
give you
just
shivers? Yeah,
unforgivable. Sorry.
right. And so we cleared this because I know how to get rid of that stuff, like I was talking to you about. He started making money, and all of a sudden, he was teaching. Oh, his kids started respecting him because he started respecting himself. He started building his confidence. He started making more money. It was like this magical thing. Like I get emotional whenever I talk about it. And there's going to be some woman who snatches him up, I'm sure, because like this guy was so great. And I saw one day, like not long ago, when I was working with him, and he's like, he was leading a leadership workshop. I'm like, what the heck? And he's like, I know. He goes, people want to hear what I have to say. And like, I think of his journey, right? I'm like, well, yeah. And like that, I was so proud of him. And so, like, the transformation we can have as human beings is unrestricted, right? You just have to choose change. It's really that simple. And so,
Yeah.
be
No, it
courageous,
is.
right?
It
Yeah.
is. It's the power to choose. And we
Yeah.
all have that power,
Yeah.
even when there are times, like in that story, where you have to unearth that it may not
Yeah.
seem that you have the power, but it's always there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
100%.
so I mean, that was a really excellent example with Bob and what he was experienced, but more of a general view, because that was really an outlier. I
Yeah.
mean, wow.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Why is building a champion business such a challenge for so many?
I really feel there's two, maybe three main reasons. The first is it's unachievable because it's too much. And sometimes our brains get overloaded, so we have to break it into pieces, right? And I do this exercise where I go through people with a series of questions, and the title of it is who would you be if you were the world champion of your business? Just like what we're talking about. And so I take them through the different areas of their life. And so, financial, for instance, if you had unlimited money, one lady, she was really good. She goes, I'd have my own country, and I'd have like a team of people. I'm like, holy mackerel, right? Like she was on it. Other people were like, well, I'd hire a VA, and I'm like talking on like, so it just depends what their level of deserve is, right? And so for them, I just want, it's different for everybody what being the world champion of your business is. So that would be the first thing I would figure out is if you could be the best at what you do, what would it look like? What would it look like family wise, financial wise, business wise, emotionally? Who would be your circle of friends? What support would you need? And so you start to break all these things down, and then you start to get a picture of what it would look like. And then you look at where you are now, go through the same categories, and you're going to see where that gap is. And that's where we start to work, right?
Yeah.
And see, and we start to fill that gap. So I would say if people want, if you just can't imagine that you would be the best in the world at your business, if you could, what would that look like for you? And break it down into those categories so that you're not feeling like it's an unachievable thing, because there's nothing worse than us starting something, throwing spaghetti at the wall, and we're like, yeah, that wasn't a very good meal, right? And so you hear me, right? Yeah. So let's do things that move your needle forward, right? And so that's the way to do it. Yeah.
No, I hear you. I love this that I use the analogy of throwing spaghetti at the wall all the
Yeah.
time because I encounter it with people with their sales, and they
Right.
don't have a system, they don't have a process. They have not even ever really spent the time to figure this out
Yeah.
and figure out what is the best solution for them. And they
Yeah.
just keep trying all these different things, and sometimes
Yeah.
it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's like, yeah, chaos is reigning.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And my system, like we go through what are your opportunities? What are your challenges? Where do you want to go to? What are your limiting beliefs? What's your money mindset? So we go through this process of things, and we discover a lot of things they didn't even know
yeah,
that are there. Right. And
no,
it's
absolutely.
fascinating. Yeah. I love it.
Well, and you talked about it a little bit about what can hold people back. And
Mhm.
certainly, it seems that getting into that core truth of not just on the surface, you can't just scratch the surface, but
No.
actually digging in a little. Um, and I'd love to have you talk a little bit about that because for someone to start this journey, and especially they could on the surface, they could have, the income, the fancy house, a fancy car, and on the surface, it looks nice, but they
Mhm.
just feel empty.
It's so true, especially when I work a lot with high achievers because I understand that mindset. And one of the first things we talk about is what makes you happy. And most of the time, it's a word they've forgotten. Well, I don't know. I'm like, yes, you do. Like, if you look back to your fondest memory, what is that? And they will tell, they know what that is. So they'll tell me what that is. And then we move from that spot. I'm like, all right, what else makes you happy? And we'll go through that whole list. And then what happens after that when we're talking is I'm like, what do you want out of this call? Well, I don't know. Yes, you do. Right. And so, and then they just need permission a lot of the time to just say, this is really bugging me and I don't know what to do about it. But the trust factor has to be there. And building trust, as you know, trading and sales is key. And you really just, as the person speaking to them, need to be authentic and let them know that there's nobody more qualified than them to judge themselves, which they've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So, right, like let's just try and, just not be judgy about ourselves, right? And so when it's a high achieving person and I'm like, you made a lot of money, what did you do with the money? Well, I bought stuff. I'm like, okay, so then what I do is just like everyone else, I bring them into their vision. All right, so let's see. You made that unlimited amount of money. What do we want? Well, I do that. I'm like, no. What are you doing for yourself? Because what's happened there is a lot of the time they've forgotten about the self care. So we have to go back and not fix that piece, but reconnect it up. Because right now they're here and they need to connect with here. But you can't tell them that because it's like a secret and they don't want to admit that. So you just get them to figure it out through questions, right? And so that's where we kind of take them into the past. We do it. It's called future casting. Well, if things don't change, what's going to happen, right? And I ask them a series of questions, and then by the end of it, they're like, "Man, I need to do something about this," right? Like, and I'm like, "All right, well, this is what I think we should do." Oh, you have a solution, right? And so, but they gave me the solution, right? I'm like, well, that's what you told me, right? And so it's just a matter of validating what they want, and going through that process with them so that they know that they can have that happiness back. And it may be different than before because their life has changed. They've had the money didn't fulfill the need. So what is going to? Money will be a piece of it, but it won't be all of it like they thought it was. Does
Yeah.
that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's going to be unique for each
Correct.
individual.
Yeah.
And so for those who are listening and fascinated as much as I am what you're sharing, Laura, what should they do next? What should our listeners do next about building a world champion business?
I would get really clear on making sure that you're aligned with your purpose. Like start there. And then when you're ready to scale, that's like a more of a business strategy conversation. You need to you need to have those systems and processes in place. And Lynn, you and I have talked about this. You cannot scale without it, and you need a team. Again, it's the support, right? Like you need that support. Do we have a lot of time left? Because I have another story if you want to have
Yeah,
time.
go ahead.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is the
Please
story of
share.
winning my first gold medal. So yeah, so I competed for many years and on the international circuit, and I compete in full contact weapons fighting. And so every 2 years we'd have the world championship somewhere in the world, and I would compete. I would get bronze, silver, bronze, silver, bronze, silver. I'm like, man, what is going on here, right? And so it would 2 years have gone by, and if you know anything about professional athletes, it's a 9 month ramp up. So you start here, diet, exercise, training, mental work, everything, right? And it's 9 months to compete for those 2 days where you have to hit your weight and everything has to be good. So I decided this was the time. It was going to happen, right? So there were 12 of us on the Canadian team, and the competition was in Manila, Philippines. So we're training for 9 months. We get there, and
Right.
there's 56 other countries. So there's a lot of competition. And our coach stole our money. Yeah, our coach stole our money. And then he says, I'm not coaching any of you anymore. You're troublemakers. And he left. And so here we are in this auditorium, geared up to compete, and he leaves, and we have no money, right? And so we all huddle up, right? And we're like, and me and true Laura Armstrong fashion, I'm like the ringleader. I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do here? Are we gonna DQ? DQ means disqualify and just let we don't compete, or are we all gonna go home with gold? And like they all look at me and they're like, we're all gonna go home with gold, like and they're swearing at him. I'm like, all right, let's do it, right? So we do our little. powwow, and off we go to our rings, and we're starting fights. And so to get to the gold medal round, fights are a minute, and there's three in each match. And so I probably had about 7 matches, so about 21 fights. And you're tired. You got to have gas in the tank for the gold medal round, right? So I get in the gold medal round, and I'm fighting. And the first 2 rounds were good. I did okay, I think. It's hard to tell when you're in it. And I look over, and there is my whole team watching me on the other side of the ring, right? Cheering me on. And the third round comes, and I'm so tired. Like, I cannot even lift my arm. And I look over, and my opponent's more tired than me. I was like, oh, yeah. So I don't know where I pulled it from, but I was like, I'm going to take this, right? And so I went and I did the round. And so at the end of the round, they blow the whistle, longest minute of my life, by the way. And so I'm standing there, and the ref's there, and he's holding our hands, and the winner, he lifts the hand. So he lifts my hand up, and he's like, world champion, gold medal winner. And I'm like, I'm like stunned. I can't, there's nothing. I'm just like, what? Right. And and then I start crying because it's like been 10 years of my life to get here. And my teammates are ecstatic. They're like screaming, and they're like, yeah, right on the other side of the round. And like, and so, you know, the key here is, if you want a gold medal, go let someone steal your money and be inspired. But the fact of the matter is, the truth is, the support was what I was missing to win.
Yeah.
And so that really is the key to actually being a gold medal winner in your business, being the best in the world, being a black belt, whatever you want to call it. So really, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And it was an amazing moment I'll never forget. And I want that to inspire everyone to step into their power and know that you can do it. You've got the support, so don't do it alone. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that was absolutely amazing. And I got chills, and you're right. I mean, it was that that catalyst that was the difference.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that is really amazing. Well,
Yeah.
Laura, I know that our listeners are going to want to know more about how they can connect
Sure.
with you and how they can, you know, take that next step with you.
Yeah, for sure. It's really simple. You can reach me. I'm on all the social media. My website's wealthmasterysystems.com. But just go to talkwithlaura.com and book an hour on my calendar. I'd like to offer that, Lynn, to your community. And I'd love to hear more about you and your business, and what your dreams are, and how I can support you in that. And I guarantee you'll leave the call with some tools. Regardless of what happens, we're going to have a good time.
Well, Laura, I've added that to the live stream chat. We'll
Awesome.
also add it to all of you who are listening afterwards. So Laura, with all of her links, she's just one click away.
Mhm.
This has been such a great conversation, Laura. Thank you so much. And
My
our
pleasure.
listeners, thank you for being here and joining us today. We want to bring you this type of content every single time. But Laura, wow, what an impact. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so much for
much.
being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Lynn. It was amazing.
I thought I
Are we
hit
on?
stop and I didn't. Now I have.
Awesome.
So